right, good evening. This is March 10th. This is a planning board meeting of March 10th, 2020. If you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. First, we have an informal discussion about Linbia's Path. And I guess I'll defer to Jim.
Okay. No, we don't have anyone here tonight. I kind of mentioned to him that
Okay.
the last couple of weeks been focused on trying to get the town meeting warrant articles put together. But today I did do some research, went through the minutes of all the meetings from 2014 and 2015, and discovered that there wasn't a lot of discussion about the affordable unit. You know, just mentioned that there's an affordable unit. Sean Martin from Fuss & O'Neill mentioned in a comment letter, as well as at the meeting itself, that the affordable unit did not have a garage, and was shown on many versions of plans that there was no garage with the house. And then there was no comment from anybody else on the planning board regarding the affordable unit, and the lack of a garage.
I believe I brought that up.
Okay.
Did I not, Mr. Chair?
Well, that was recently, but that was, this
No, this was
originally
over a
down-
month, 6 weeks ago.
No, this is when Jack Hunter was here.
Oh, I
Linbia's
understand.
Path.
Okay, I see you're going years
yeah.
But
back.
going back to the actual
All right.
meeting itself, where the discussion on the the project, on the definitive plan. So, and then later on, there was a comment letter in response to the Fuss & O'Neill letter, and the comment back from the applicant's engineer was, oh, the planning board had no issue with there not being a garage on the inclusionary house. So, so one of the things we're going to, do is a little more investigation. Just, I got to talk to Jack Hunter, see if, what he recollects from the situation, and then Bruce and I are going to be meeting with NeighborWorks Housing Solution in Kingston next week to further discuss, regarding the, the inclusionary units, and then also how these units are supposed to be marketed, because we have this one right here, Gilbert Estates, has been reactivated, so they'll have some affordable units coming online. So we'll just have, so we'll be kind of ahead of the game when these affordable units or inclusionary units come online to address them in advance. So that's what I have, and then I think I was going to suggest that we'll have it back on the agenda for the March 24th meeting, and then we'll have the applicant's engineer and also Mrs. Cashier.
Okay. All right, any questions or comments? Any of the board members?
Mr. Chair, as far as that's concerned, I know for a fact that we discussed this, and I know back then we discussed it, and it was explained to me that the house that would be considered the affordable house was not going to be different. It was going to be based on the applicant's, what would you call that, sliding scale. There might be some things in the house that would be different, but that is clearly different, with the exception, with the fact that it does not have a garage. So maybe it's our bad that we did not have a picture exactly what they were going to build for that house, but it was also presented to me, along with, I believe you were on that board, and you were here, Mr. Chair, that it was going to be, for the most part, the same thing. However, it was going to be based on the applicant's ability to afford it.
Well, we'll just have to see if we can find it in the records of our meeting. Unfortunately, we have to find something that's in writing. So, so it's either in the records of the meeting, or whatever we have to do, we'll take a look at it.
And actually,
and see.
Jack may have some correspondence that might be on the system somewhere where I haven't been able to find it yet, so I'll have to talk to him to see if he has anything in writing, so we can address that.
And unfortunately, it's back several town planners, so, you know, that's what happened. And I think it was at the end of Jack's time, he was just about ready to go, so whether something was overlooked or not, but we'll look into it more, see what we can do. All right, so they will, we don't have to vote on that. They'll be,
Nope,
we're
this
going
is
to
just-
just put that on the agenda for next
Meeting.
the meeting on March 24th. All right, so we have two public hearings that have been continued, and one was, the first one was on the application of Clean Energy Company, Joe Shanahan, requesting a special permit and site plan review, and this was for a photovoltaic project on Zero Snappet Road. So what do you...
All right, just to read the
Sure.
request letter. So March 6, 2020, Planning Board, Town of Carver, Carver Town Hall, 848 Main Street, Carver, Mass. 02330. Request for withdrawal of special permit and site plan review applications, James Breachway Solar Project, Zero Snappet Road, Carver, Mass. ADA job number 2994.02. Dear board members, based upon input from the board at the February 25th, 2020 public hearing, Atlantic Design Engineers, Inc., on behalf of the applicant Clean Energy Company, CEC, is hereby formally requesting to withdraw without prejudice the site plan review and special permit applications for the James Breachway Solar Project on Zero Snappet Road, assesses map 34, parcels 2 and 5, map 33, parcel 9-C. It is the intention of CEC to resubmit the application and revise site plans at a date sometime in the near future. If you have any questions or require any clarification, please call the undersigned at 508-888-9282. Very truly yours, Atlantic Design Engineers, Richard Tabazinski, PE, Vice President.
Okay, thank you, Jim. So we have to vote on this, whether they're going to...
Right, so the request is to withdraw without prejudice.
So, Mr. Chair, we have a public hearing, so we have to close the public hearing first,
Okay.
and then, and see if anybody in the public has anything to say, and then we can take action.
I see somebody's here. Did you understand what's going on, Mr. Perry?
I'm the father-in-law.
Oh, the father-in-law, okay, I did. Okay.
I think we do understand. I just have one question from the resubmitting process. Does it start right over from the beginning with the abutters being notified by certified mail and things such as that, or does that happen in a resubmission process?
It's gonna be like a new project. Yeah. It's so, we had talked to Mr. Tabaninski and Mr. Shanahan, and they were gonna try to move the project around so it wouldn't be in such a direct sight, and so that they could put some plantings out there. And, but now, because of the elections, we're gonna lose some people on the board here. We're gonna lose one person on the board, we could lose two people on the board. So we advised them that maybe, it would be better to withdraw and then come back to us. And they still have work to do with the Conservation Commission too, if they're gonna move the project around. So that's where it is right now. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it'll be a new project. New notices will be sent out to the neighbors. And then we will go from there. But they have a ways to go yet. with the new plan, so we'll see what happens. All right. All right, having said that, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
I hear a
I'll
second.
second.
So we have a motion and second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Mr. Chair, make a motion to accept the applicant's request to withdraw without prejudice on the special permit site plan review.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion and a second. Further discussion?
Yes, I have something, Mr. Chair, and it's just for the public. This is mainly because I'm getting off the board. I presented to the applicant that I would be not seeking reelection, and that it gave him some advice that he should take this off and start over. And just for the board, in the past, when this has happened, we've waived the application fee. As far as their mailings and stuff, they're still responsible for that, but we've waived their fees and stuff. If the board wishes to do that, in the past, we have done that. So just so the public knows where we're at with that. I just wanted the board to know about the fees being waived and stuff.
Okay.
We've done that in the past when we've had this situation where the board has changed.
Okay.
Just to clarify, not a new application fee, but they would still pay the review fees.
Yeah, they still have to pay the review fees, they still have to pay the mail-in fees and
Fees.
stuff like that, just for the application fee they've already paid. It is not, we always looked at it as a board that it wasn't their, we'd be implementing the hardship because one person was getting off the board. So it really handcuffs an applicant that way when you need a supermajority vote on the project, that we would give them that opportunity, and I think it's well that they did that. So that way they have a brand-new board and they'll be able to present their case when they're ready. So,
Thank you.
All right, any other comments? Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So, we don't have a date when they're going to come back to us. They have not yet scheduled a new meeting yet, so.
No.
Okay, so you will be notified by mail when it comes up to the board. Okay, thank you. All right, the next we have an application of RPB LLC of Kingston. It's requesting a site plan review pursuant to sections 2230 and 3100. And this is, okay, so this is for property located off of Spring Street. And it's a commercial building. And so what's going on with this, Jim, if you could explain?
All right, so I'll just read the email into the record from C. Bradley McKenzie of McKenzie Engineering, dated Monday, March 9th, 2020. Hi, Jim. Hope all is well. Please continue the hearing for the above project scheduled for March 10th, 2020 to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Afford us ample time to prepare the supplemental documents requested by the planning board and to respond to the peer review letter prepared by Fuss and O'Neill. We understand that the following information has been requested by the planning board of the applicant: architectural rendering of proposed building, specifications for wall pack lighting, landscape plan by a landscape architect. Please advise if there's additional information that the board has requested that is not mentioned in the F&O letter. Thank you. Regards, Bradley C. McKenzie, PE President.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion for this to be continued to March 24th at 7 o'clock.
Mr. Chair, I'll make said motion to continue the public hearing for RBPB LLC to March 24th at 7 PM.
I'll
I'll second that.
Okay.
Because Jen was first, so
Yes.
it was quick. It was a quick draw, but it was Jen, I think. So we have a motion and a second for the discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Mr. Chair?
yes.
I just want to, was there any other information that the board needed in addition to the 3 items mentioned?
As far as plantings and, what do you mean for this?
Oh, so they're going to have a landscape plan, and then specifications for the wall pack lighting, and then architectural rendering of the proposed building. I just want to know if there were any other items that I should pass on to them that the board is...
The only other big, through you, Mr. Chair, big concern that we heard that night was if we got any responses from our engineer on site distances and stuff for the access coming off of Spring Street. There, not Spring Street,
Off of High Street.
off of High Street. You know, there was a lot of people asking about that, and I don't know if Fussell and Mail discussed that or not.
Okay, so I can ask...
We did take a look at that. Jen and I went this week, or last week, I guess, to the site. We did visit the area where the building was, it was staked out and the parking lot was staked out. And we did take a look at any views that the neighbors had on the property. And there wasn't really any kind of view there. It was pretty well wooded even at this time of year. And I think Jen will say the same. And we did look at the site distances, and it was several hundred feet to High Street. I mean, I thought the site distances were good. We were about 150 feet from the entrance that they're now using for the gravel removal. And I know there was a discussion by a neighbor. I know I got some emails. One was about putting the basin where the building, with the drainage basin where the building is now proposed, but unfortunately, that can't be done now because we had already voted and approved the subdivision plan.
Okay.
And so the drainage basin is where it's where it's going to be. Then there was a discussion by one of the neighbors on whether the driveway can come off the main road that is now being used as a sand and gravel excavation area for the rest of the development. So we talked to the engineer that took us out there, and the engineer told us that it'd be probably a couple of years' worth of work just to take the gravel out of there. So that operation's going to go on for a couple of years. And there were a lot of big trucks going in and out of that entrance. So I think just for safety's sake, I think the entrance to the new building was staked out, and we did look at it, and I think for just safety's sake, they're going to have to use the proposed entrance. I don't think that you could have people going in and out of that building using an entrance off to the side. It's just too many trucks coming in and out. It's just a safety hazard. So we looked at that, but then Jen and I looked at, there was, and you can say something, Jen, if I'm putting words in your mouth. We did look at some the planting area out front between the sidewalk and the parking lot, and there is a lot of area there. There's got to be 10 feet or something like that of area where, we suggested trees and shrubs and to make that front of the building look really nice off the road. So, and we did express our concerns about the landscaping and that it should be done by a professional architect, and we wanted to see some nice plans for that building. And we'd also like to see, and I don't know if that was on the list, yeah, we did, elevation of the building too. If, we could see, we kind of told the engineer that we'd like to see a little bit better building, or a more aesthetically pleasing building, just for the neighborhood people there. And it's just a nice thing to have as you drive into this subdivision. So he took all the advice, I hope. And so those are the things that we discussed, and Jim was there with us. So hopefully we'll
But
see those.
We're missing
plans at our next
a
meeting.
future member. I think we had Lexi with us, too.
It's true. She's at all of them. Never missed one.
All right, so I don't know if you have anything to add to what I said, Jen.
No, you hit it all, the stuff that we thought was important. Again, there's a lot of opportunity for landscaping along the front. I had also mentioned maybe along the side of the building toward High Street, where it's going to be cleared all the way to Ricketts Pond. Maybe at the edge of the pavement, add stuff there. And just, again, my biggest request was to see as detailed a landscape plan as possible.
Good.
So I hope that answers everybody's questions, to any of the neighbors that are going to be watching this. And of course, more discussion will happen at our next meeting.
Good.
So,
Motion in a second.
so we had a motion and a second, and that was further discussion. So those in favor, continue this to March 24th?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, so good. All right, so those are the main topics that we have on the agenda tonight. We have some other business, so we'll just go through other business, planning board member notes. If there's anybody that has anything.
Mr. Chair, just a brief update from North Carver Water District meeting last night. Very happy to announce that the new generator is in place and installed and up and running. The old generator has been sold in auction, and we actually gained a profit from all the checks and balances after we pay back the town some money that we owe in a reference to somewhere in the $30,000 mark. So that's exciting news. We have a more reliable generator, so that's very exciting. So I thought that was important to bring to the plate today.
Well, thank you. I did see that on TV. So that's good. So we actually made some money there.
Yeah, the generator was way oversized for the building in the plant when it was built and designed, and we had nothing but problems with it the whole time. Very unreliable. So we took some action. Steve, our last planning director, was able to get us a grant from the state. Between that and some money that we borrowed from the town, we were able to acquire a new generator. And then we were able to, with Dave Seatontoff's help, put the old one out to auction, and a person came right in, took it, and after everything's said and done, we'll probably have about $30,000 that'll go back into our account, so that way we'll be able to put it towards membranes and stuff like that, because we're getting close to that threshold. It's been 10, 11 years, so all good news.
Very good. All right, thank you, Will. Anything else? We'll go on to planning director notes.
So tonight we have Mr. Silva here. He owns, I forgot his address, but on Center Street, there's a 72 Center Street, and his property was approved for a solar array, several years ago. I believe Borrego is the installer. And he had some concerns regarding, questions and concerns regarding some of the landscaping details. And so I said, maybe come tonight and pose your questions, and we may have to, do some research, further research, and then, come back with an answer at another meeting.
If you could sit down on one of the chairs and pull up a microphone and give us your name and address, please.
The name is Ed Silva, 72 Center Street. I just would like to get some clarification in reference to It was in November of last year that the board approved the special permit. Borrego was here at the time, and they submitted a preliminary landscape details that some of the abutters that they agreed to is one of the requirements from 3 of the houses. Well, my concern well, my question is at what stage in the process is the does Borrego does this landscape have to go in prior to the permit issue?
Point of clarification, when you say permit issue, which permit?
The building permit.
So they haven't started installing the solar?
They're going to be starting in about 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. They're going to be applying for the permit,
So
building permit.
and I'll speak about this. Normally what ends up happening is the applicant has a site plan that was approved by this board, now it goes to the building commissioner for a building permit. During that process of the building permit, them doing their work, and part of the conditions from our site plan approval has the landscape and all that other stuff. How they have it in their checklist or how they're gonna do it is mostly designed by when it would be most effective installation that's not gonna be affected by the construction.
Okay, so.
But that's not for us to make a determination, that's a determination that on their construction checklist or how it's gonna be installed. We don't.
But does that have to be installed prior to this, the completion of the project, this landscaping?
Before they get their certificate, COC, all that has to be done.
Well,
Their design and their construction, the end of the construction, the landscaping, all that has to have check marks prior to they get them a COC.
okay, well, from what I understand, it could be incorrect. I'm not sure, but I got an email, well, Steve was here, was the manager that was here
Yep.
before, and they approved a plan to where the abutter they're going to receive money to put these plantings in, and if they don't put them in,
If it was in the decision,
I have a problem. That's one of the main reasons I have a problem with that, because if they do not decide they're not going to put it in, or they decide at a later date that they're going to put it in, and the project's already constructed and approved, I don't know where they're going to put them. To me, it should be under the supervision of the people that's constructing the project, that has to go in at the time.
it depends on the conditions that was approved by this board, and then the enforcement officer is the building commissioner. So if at the time of the special permit that we went through, it said landscaping will be done during this construction and these type of plants will be installed, that has to be done prior to them getting their certificate of completion.
Okay, well, I'm not privy to any of that. I don't have any of that.
Well, this project was a little different. This is something that we hadn't done before, but I think if say in this particular case, Borrego was going to put landscaping on the property that they were working on.
Which is what I wanted them to do.
So if they were going to put landscaping on the property that they were actually putting the solar panels on, and they were responsible to doing that, they would have to have those plantings in at the end of the project. And, it doesn't necessarily have to happen while they're building it, because like Will said, during construction, they want optimum growing for the plants, and they don't want them trampled over by machines and stuff like that. In this particular case, it was a little different, though. So I don't think that the board or Borrego has control over this. I think that what we did here was, this was a house that sat up on the hill.
Right.
Yeah. So Borrego the Borrego had talked to these people before, and they were going to put plantings on their property, on these people's property, to screen them from the solar panels. And we were gonna, and they said first they were gonna do it on top of the hill because they wouldn't, the trees wouldn't have to be so high.
That's correct.
Now, the people didn't want that. They wanted to put the plantings at the bottom of the hill. And they wanted lots, so they were gonna have to be large trees, 20 feet, some 16 to 20 feet maybe.
I remember that.
So I think what was worked out between the property owner and Borrego was that Borrego was going to get an estimate for how much that cost. And if the owner of the abutting property agreed, they were just going to write him a check for the, whatever it would cost, and then those people could have their own landscaper install those plantings on their property, not the property that Borrego was on. So,
Well,
I think they get a check. Now, whether they do it or not, that's up to them. Whether this, if the solar panels weren't to their liking, to their view from the rear of their house.
well, it's
I would
almost
say that they
400
would
feet away
install
from
it,
their
but-
house.
yeah, right.
In the first place.
I understand
And number
that.
two, I've had an issue with him as to where his boundary line is. So to me, it's incumbent on the company that's installing the solar to make sure. Well, I don't know whether he's going to take the check and go to Hawaii with it. I don't know that. And he could install it at a later date after the solar panels are put in.
could do that.
And I don't know exactly where he's going to put it. I don't want to be put in the position to where I have to deal with him in reference to where he puts that. The onus should be on the company that puts that in.
That's on his property. So I don't know, you could ask Jim what his opinion is. But, I mean, we gave, or Borrego gave that person money to put plantings
He hasn't given it
on
to
his
him yet.
property. So where he plants them, where he feels that he needs to plant them to shield himself from the view of the solar field, then
No,
that's up to him.
I understand. He can
Yeah.
put it anywhere on his property he wants, but he can't put it on mine. I have to make sure that he doesn't, but it's not up to me to do that.
No, but I don't know how it's up. Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
So another question is, when it's time to get the certificate of completion, if that neighbor hasn't planted those trees and the building commissioner is going down through and saying, oh, well, the trees aren't planted, is that grounds for denial of the certificate of completion if the trees aren't there? Or will Borrego still be responsible for putting the trees up because that's one of the conditions of their...
Excuse me, but number 6, it also says under here, under the conditions, it says the applicant, which is Borrego, must maintain adequate screening throughout the life of the project. And so,
So that means he has to do that.
right. But if he doesn't put it in, my big problem is
So you're
putting it,
concerned
I don't
as
know, if they complete this project, I got an issue with him in the boundary line. If he puts it in, he may put it in, I'm repeating myself, but if he puts this in at a later date, after this project is completed, I don't want to have to deal with him where he puts these trees.
So you're afraid that he's going to plant the trees on your property?
Listen, I've got issues with, at the time when this project was going on, he's got boats in his yard, huge boats that are sitting there at the end of my driveway. His yard has more boats in it, which is incorrect.
Is that on your site?
No. What do you mean, on my property?
Yeah,
No, it's on his land.
okay.
Yeah. Well, he's got there's nothing I can do about that, but he's the one that made the complaint about all the screening that he needed, which is about 400 feet away. I didn't argue the issue. But my issue is right now that if he takes that check, I don't know. As a landowner, I don't know if he's going to be. He may take that check and go to Hawaii with it. I don't know. But if he doesn't, and he does install it after this project is done, I don't want to have to deal with him because I've had issues with him on other issues. Why should I have to deal with where he's going to put these plantings if he puts them in?
So you're the property owner that had Borrego do the solar site on your property.
That's right.
Okay, so this gentleman that you're concerned about had an agreement with Borrego Solar for some screening, right? Who is the guy that was working with you to do it on your property. So your concern is that if the agreement that Borrego made on your behalf to get this done with your neighbor or your abutter isn't done, and he just takes the money and walks, or he decides to do it later, that would be between Borrego, yourself, and the abutter, because it's a private deal.
And then too, if you're afraid that he's gonna put plant the plantings on your property, somebody's gonna have the property line marked out there,
So,
whether it be you or the neighbor, you know?
well, but it's all
Well-
part of the development. So on the special permit that was granted, you yourself is being the property owner, Borrego representing you to do this development, right? They had a construction envelope plus a site plan for the whole site plan. Your neighbor was looking for some screening. Your representative, being Borrego Solar, got with them, you guys came to a conclusion, you were all
No,
set.
they came to a conclusion.
Who's they?
Borrego and...
Is your
Butter.
representative, he was the guy who was putting the solar system on your property.
That's correct.
So you and Borrego are like one side, your abutters the other side. There isn't a three-side, it's this.
Okay.
Because if Borrego didn't approach you to do this on your property, you didn't approach a solar company to do this on the property, they wouldn't have been able to come in and just say, hey, I'm Will's solar company and I want to do this on this bog and have a nice day. You had to have a
So-
partnership.
So your point to me is, what?
I understand your concern of that, whether or not your neighbor does his end of the deal.
Where's the
If Borrego,
responsibility of the town to
The-
make sure that that's...
if the agreement was, and I don't have all the language right in front of me of the decision, but if the agreement in the decision was you being the party and your abutter being the party came to a conclusion of how the screening was going to be at a later date, and you were satisfied with it, Borrego was satisfied, and your abutter was satisfied with it, it came to this board and we voted on that. So the grievance would be between, and I can understand your concern whether or not the neighbor isn't going to do it or is going to do it. But where and how the town was a part of those negotiations.
I disagree.
Okay. It would be in the language. It would be in some type of language that you would have had with your abutter. I would get with Borrego's pretty stand up. I would get with the
Yeah, I
representative.
have absolutely, they've been one of the best companies I ever dealt with.
They are.
I'm not here to besmirch Borrego.
Yeah.
All I know
He's
is...
just concerned.
Well, listen, he spoke to the abutter. That conversation, what they had with him, I wasn't privy to that. My concern now is that it's going forward. I discussed this today with Mr. Farkas, Josh. And
And he is the
he is,
abutter?
he's the guy, he represents, he's the...
You know Josh.
He's the one that
Oh,
came
Josh.
forward about Josh.
That's Josh and Zach.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I explained to him what I'm explaining to you.
Yep.
And he understood my point.
Yep.
And he says, well, we'll see what happens when we go through the permit process and
Good.
how this is questioned. We'll take it from there. But it's not like I'm coming here and not discussing that with him. I discussed it with him.
Good.
So
Borrego is, in my opinion, one of the top-notch.
you don't have to tell me that. I know that.
Just for the public to know.
I had 3 other companies come down there, and I didn't want any of them
Yep.
but them.
So whatever, I would say that whatever the agreement you guys came to,
So basically, what you're telling me is whatever that agreement states, whatever he has in writing with stands.
Privy to that, you should ask Borrego to give you a copy of that agreement. Because that's yours.
Yeah. So that dissolves. You're not saying, are you saying there's anything more to look at as far as the town is concerned in reference to this project, or that's it?
Without looking at the actual decision that we wrote and that this board approved on that site plan, I won't make that determination
Okay.
right now. But if
Fair
I
enough.
read the whole decision that this board agreed on, and it does not mention that private agreement between Borrego, yourself, and your abutter, we have no jurisdiction over that.
Okay.
I'd be surprised if Steve, our ex-planner, didn't put that in the decision that there was an agreement made for landscaping on, I don't know, the abutter's property.
Yeah.
We'll call him Tom.
Chuck Howard.
On Charlie's property, so
Right.
I'd be surprised if that wasn't in there, because I know this whole layout of this was different for us.
Yeah, Josh did tell me there is a paper trail in reference to that.
That's perfect. That's a
Yeah.
good thing.
Yeah, I think you might, he would have the decision too, I would imagine, but we could come up with.
Yeah.
He
Oh,
knows.
you have the decision.
He
so-
knows how I feel
What
about
if-
it.
Yeah, so what have you found? Now, we can give you a copy of the decision. Do you have a copy?
I made
Okay.
3 of them. I didn't know if you guys had them. I was going to pass them out.
So just for the public's knowledge, I'm sure that you have this, but I'm going to read this because Jim had the decision. It's under condition number 6.
Yeah, I'm looking
It says, prior to the issuance of the building permit, the project landscaping plan must be finalized with the agreed upon vegetation screening to be determined through discussions with the budding property owners. Signed agreement between the applicant and the abutters acknowledge acceptance of the screening must be submitted to the board. So they have to submit that. They did that to us. The applicant must maintain adequate screening throughout the life of the project. Any future development of clearing of vegetation screening will be subject to the review of the planning board as a modification to the site plan. So it's in the conditions of us. So before they get their COC, that has to happen.
Okay.
They have to submit what they did on the Urabutter's property, that it's in compliance or whatever they decided they were going to put up there. And it specifies screening, so I think the concern of him going, as you would say in your words, going to Hawaii doesn't cut the mustard in our decision.
Let me.
It says screening.
So you're saying to me, what?
He has to do the screening. So your abutter has to have the screening done. It says it right in here.
That's, right.
So that has to be submitted to this board
And my
prior
question-
to
Okay.
their COC.
All right, so COC means what?
Conditions of completion
So that would be at the tail end of the project before
at the
it's
end of the
approved?
project. So that screening has to be done, and it specifies vegetation.
Okay, that was my question. At what point does that have to, does he just get away with not putting anything in?
No, it has to go
Put
in.
me through hell with this project to get it approved.
It has to go in.
Yeah, I would think that Josh must have some information
Well, I'm pretty
on
sure
this,
he
too.
does.
And some sort of a written agreement
Yeah.
that we don't have.
He was in
But,
an airport when he was talking to me. We're going to talk again tomorrow. Josh and I talk all the time, but he know how I felt about it. But,
Yep.
okay, that clarifies it. I didn't know how to interpret that question exactly.
The language could be tricky.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, anything else, Jim?
Other than I took all the changes to the proposed zoning bylaws and submitted them as warrant articles up to the Board of Selectmen office, so they have them now, and hopefully everyone will get into the warrant and
Good.
move on from there.
All right, thank you. Next, minutes of February 25th. Has everybody had a chance to look at them?
I didn't get them.
Do we get them?
They're not in the packets
Then,
there?
maybe in the packet.
I didn't see them in my
No,
packet.
they weren't in mine.
All right, well, we can table that till
Next meeting?
our next meeting. And so our next meeting date will be March 24th. And entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second it.
A motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you, everyone. Good night.